What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about how British and American families are different. I am very excited for this one. I'm very happy someone tried to make a video explaining this topic. This seems quite difficult to actually have any knowledge on American and British families. Usually, I feel kind of bad. I feel kind of ignorant when I'm learning about Britain. Like I should know more about the culture that I don't know by now, or where some of the cities are, or what the food is. And this is a topic where I feel like most people, as a matter of fact, most all people don't know what family life, family dynamics, growing up with a family is like in other cultures, in other countries. So I'm fascinated to see what Lawrence here has come up with as his differences he's noticed between his British family and American family. I think that's a fascinating topic, and I'm excited to learn what it is. So let's take a look.
Here are 5 ways that British and American families are very different.
Okay.
I'm not
Family size. Family size. Do I have a guess for this? I'm gonna guess that American families are bigger. Maybe. Like, maybe Americans are just like more unabashedly carefree, like when having lots of children, or I don't know. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Maybe not as responsible or something, or I don't know. America has a much, much larger population as well. I don't know. Family size.
I'm not sure if it's because I'd already seen the extra large size of America's roads and cars and land and grocery stores and everything, but my initial impression was that American family sizes were bigger than those of Britain. And,
Okay.
if you don't believe me, watch the 1990 documentary Home Alone. It just felt like my wife's relatives were coming from all angles, not in attack formation. It's not the 18th century. But
Okay, so he is saying that he thinks, on average, American families are bigger. I would love to know if he actually knows if there's like a logical reason or data to support that.
But their great numbers instilled in me this kind of belief that American households were on average made up of more people than your British equivalents.
Oh, there you go. So there is some kind of study.
Attack formation, it's not the 18th century. But their great numbers instilled in me this kind of belief that American households were on average made up of more people than your
No, it wasn't a study. It was just his anecdotal observation, actually.
British equivalents. But was there any truth to this matter? It's not that British families don't have multiple children. I myself
Right.
have 2 siblings.
Right. At no point in my life did I ever think or get the idea that British families are particularly small or particularly big. I guess I just don't think about British family size that often, now that I think about it.
Well, it turns out there is no ignoring the facts. Over the last 10 years, the average number of person per UK household was between 2.3 and 2.4. In that
Wow.
same time period, the average number of people in an American household has roughly floated between 2.5 and 2.6 people.
Okay, it's not a gigantic difference. It's actually around the amount you would think, I guess. Like, most people probably have 3 people in their household, a husband, wife, and 1 child. Maybe that's the most common. Sounds like in both America and Britain. But America, so some people have only 2 people in the household, lots of people have 4 or 5 or something, and it all averages out. But on average, America has slightly more people per household, so it is supported by data.
So that means that on average, American households have about a fifth of a person more than British households,
All right.
which is about the size of a leg. What's going on, America? Well,
Right.
one thing that I've noticed that might accommodate this slight increase in family size is the relatively large size of American houses, which, as I pointed out in a video 2 years ago,
Right. I have learned a little about this. American houses are pretty big compared to a lot of places in the rest of the world, and would, by its very nature, almost encourage you to think about having more children, or at least put that thought in your mind like, oh, it's okay if we have more children. There's plenty of space. There's houses available to accommodate a larger family. That's fascinating. how just the size of the houses in America probably has an effect on how willing people are in America to think about having more children. Huh.
Are just bigger, which, might account for these. My family.
Get-togethers. Get-togethers. Are get-togethers different in America? Family get-togethers? In Britain, in America. What's the difference?
My family might not be typical, but when I was growing up in Britain, we had parties at our house for two occasions, and those two
Okay.
occasions were Christmas and birthdays. For Christmas, it would just be a small gathering of humans that could fit inside our English living room. And for birthdays, and we're particularly talking about childhood birthdays, it would usually be about 6 kids, one of whom was inevitably thrown out for disruptive behavior.
So only 2 get-togethers for British families. Maybe that's an exaggeration. I don't know. I'm sure you're having friends and stuff and over whenever you want, but Americans probably do come up with a couple more reasons to have like holidays. Like we have to have a Thanksgiving get-together and a Christmas get-together and a New Year's Eve get-together and a 4th of July get-together and birthdays, and so I'm guessing there's a lot more getting-togethers for Americans?
Forcing the other 5 to go on without me. And they'd all play Pass the Parcel, which is a game that I don't hear too many Americans talking about, come to think of it. And that was about it for me. But in America, families will house huge parties for all manner of occasions.
That's true. People will, especially depending on what your personality is. I feel like Americans, if you're going to call Americans as an overarching personality, they like get-togethers and making like events, reasons when there's no reason to have lots of people over and hosting stuff, and I don't know. And if you're the other kind of personality, you don't really want people at your house messing up your stuff, cleaning up the wrappers.
So 25 people will show up to Christmas meals, Thanksgiving meals, 4th of July stuff, birthdays, graduation open house parties. I did 3 of those in my first year.
Yep. Right, graduations, wedding stuff. Yeah, there's a million reasons.
I don't know who those people are. And the one that really stands out for me personally is the welcome party that I was given. When I came to Indiana in 2007, I was just visiting, and I thought I'll meet the mum and the dad for the second time. I'll meet the brother and sister, maybe pet a dog or 2. No, I got the whole works, as they say. There were aunts and uncles and granddads and grandmothers and cousins and...
Oh, well, this seems kind of like... I don't think this is necessarily an American thing. I've never... experience some kind of welcome party or anything like that. This is just like maybe his family or his wife's family being nice, a little overly friendly in a good way.
Cousins of cousins. And I know what you're thinking. Ooh, Lawrence, you're an introvert. That must have been hell. But here's the thing. One of the most challenging things about being an introvert is initiating the conversation. And because I couldn't get a word in edgeways, I didn't have to go through that. So everyone's a winner.
The role of education. The role of education is different in British versus American families? What else could the role of education be other than helping the outlook on your future? Getting educated. That's the role of education. Americans think it's very important so you can get into university, get a good job. Yeah, I don't see how that could... This is an interesting one. Because there's nothing apparent to me off the bat. What could really be that different between British and American families in regards to what they think about education?
A moment ago, I touched upon graduation open house parties. What I didn't mention is that we do have graduation parties in the UK. It's just that the word graduation usually refers only to the commencement of university/college.
Oh, is high school graduation only a big deal in America? That's I didn't know that.
Whereas in America, it seems like families will hold a graduation party for various levels of the educational pyramid. So I celebrated everything from a distant cousin's graduation from elementary school all the way through to university. And it's all good. You normally give them a card with some money in it, even though you needed that yourself. And presumably they put it toward their first car, not the elementary kids. Or the high school kids come to that. I don't know what they spend it on. All this to say that American families place a great deal of emphasis on the educational excellence of their kids. Now,
oh, is that what we're getting at? that American families, I mean, we do celebrate like every stepping stone of education. Is that too overboard? I think in America, like it's such a part of our culture, it's for one thing just seemed normal. It's normal. Everyone kind of is used to it. And if you it's just like a nice thing is but I could also see it kind of putting on an unnecessary pressure, maybe? Is that what we're saying here? Like too much emphasis on excellence in education? Or is it just the right amount, dare I argue? I don't this is interesting.
Now, I'm not saying this doesn't happen in Britain, of course it does. I just think the idea
Okay.
of pushing their kids to excel academically is, generally speaking, more prominent in the United States.
I mean, the way he phrases it, it sounds like a good thing. Like American families pushing and celebrating, really celebrating every stepping stone of education. Seems if you do it in moderation, it just seems like a positive thing, I think.
This doesn't just apply to grades, it's things like extracurricular activities. It seems like it's a
Ah,
really big thing here for kids to be on a sports team or
yeah,
to be in band or
yeah.
to do, what was it called? Yes, colour guard. That's where you throw the sticks and the flags in the air and you catch them in ways that I can't even comprehend.
Yeah, extracurricular activities are huge in America. I'd say most kids are probably, you'd expect most American kids to be involved in something, a sport or a club or something. I mean, maybe this is the American in me, but I think that's probably just good for personal development and developing something that they're hopefully passionate about or interested in or something. That seems like a positive to me as well.
And American families are super supportive of this. You know, many of them
Yeah.
will go and watch their kids perform, and I've even been to a few myself. And what
Huh.
can you say at the end of such an event? Oh, your flag throwing skills were really impressive, presumably. I mean, I don't know the rules.
Yes,
The
that's what you
point is,
say.
whether we're talking about football or marching band or honor society, it seems to me that a kid's extracurricular activities play a larger role in the dynamics of an American family as opposed to a British one.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. That's fascinating. Because it is such a big thing in American culture. I think the important thing is to just make sure you don't go overboard. Make sure you're not forcing your kid to become to try to force them to be passionate about something they don't care about or they're not interested in. Let them develop their own passions and just support. And I think in that context, it's a really good thing. Yeah, I mean, I'd say most families like expect, for lack of a better word, their kid to want to be a part of some kind of club or sporting team or anything really. Anything that's just getting them to do something outside of the house or outside of school.
I sort of hate this bit because I don't have any data to back it up. It's just all
Huh.
feeling. So instead,
Huh.
let's talk about something for which I do have some numbers.
Multi-generational. Like how many generations are living together? In America, this can be all over the place a bit, but for the most part, I'd say like, well, definitely like in the last 30 years, when you turned 18, you were expected to move out of your parents' house, or you could be considered like a bum or something. But these days, I think it's getting more and more acceptable to live with your parents a little longer, especially as the times have gotten harder. So I wouldn't say there's too many multi generations living in a single American household. I wouldn't say that at all. Usually one generation, to be honest, or the parents and the kids, and that's it. I don't know what it's like in Britain, though.
One of my patrons, Jeff, asked me about multi-generational households. What's a multi-generational household, Lawrence? Well, typically speaking, it's a household in which 3 or more generations of family members live together.
Oh, three or more generations, so grandparents, parents, and their kids. That's not common in America. I mean, I feel like I can say that pretty confidently.
So it might be some grandparents, parents, and kids. So an example of this would be Charlie Bucket's house in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He lives with his mum and 4
Yeah,
grandparents who, frankly,
that's funny. That's what I think of too.
Aren't pulling their weight. But in each country, what percentage of households have this kind of multi-generational makeup? Well,
Right.
in Britain, the Office for National Statistics suggests that 419,000 households are considered multi-generational, and as
419,000. That is a pretty good amount. I'm so curious if this is going to be more than America. I feel like it has to be. But but the British population is so much smaller than the American population. So how are we going to compare this correctly?
a percentage of all the households in Britain, those account for about 1.5%.
There you go. 1.5% of British households are multi-generational. More than 1 out of 100. That's a decent amount to me.
In America, it's about 4 million households, but whoa, back up the truck, right? America has a bigger population, it has more households in general, so this makes sense. But even when you do account for that differential, 4 million households is nonetheless 3.2%.
3.2%. Well, it's not all that different a percentage. I mean, it's twice as big. I guess that's significant. I guess maybe the American population is so darn big. Like, I just haven't, and when I think about it, I sure haven't been walking around inside people's houses trying to take any sort of notice of this. Believe me, I'm not doing that. I'm not sneaking around seeing if there's a lot of multi-generational households. I just, in my personal experience, I don't think I've ever run into someone I know or been to someone's house, really, that had 3 generations of people living there. I don't think it's very common in America, and it's not very common in Britain. It's just not very common in either, by the sound of it.
Of all American households. So the answer to your question, Jeff, is that it appears that American households are twice as likely to be multi-generational. And what
Okay.
do we learn from that? I don't know, but it's an interesting fact.
I think it's kind of insignificant.
And then
Family titles. Oh, family titles. Like, do we have different words for different titles? Britain versus America? This should be good.
there's the terminology, the titles that we use to describe a particular family member. And I don't
Okay.
just mean the word plonker. No, I'm talking about the American mom versus the British mum.
Mom versus mum. Oh, this is fantastic. I've always wondered if mum is like an accent thing, or is it? It's not spelled M-U-M in Britain. I feel a little stupid for asking this now. It's spelled M-O-M, but pronounced mum, or is there a mum M-U-M, or? Well, we say mom. Okay.
Or pops versus my old man, whereas both Britain and America might refer to their younger sibling as younger brother or younger sister.
Right.
Americans might occasionally refer to that person as their kid brother or kid sister.
Sure.
In Britain, as with the US, you might hear your parent's parental figure be described as granddad, grandfather, or grandpa. But
Yeah.
one word that I heard in the Midwest, and I gather is used in the South, is papaw or
Papa.
variants on that theme.
Yeah, you can have, for grandparents in America, depending on where you live, you can get a wide range of different names. Pappy, Papa, Grandpa, of course, Grandpapa.
Similarly, in the UK, while we might refer to our parents' maternal figure as grandma, grandmother, nana, nan, in the US you've got 1 or 2 other phrases. You've got Grammy, like the award, you've got grandma, grandmom, grams, and presumably in cahoots with papaw, you have mamaw.
Mama, these all exist in different places around the U.S. Heck, you might even hear like Mimi or Mima. Like, really, there's a lot. There's even more subtle variations on Mama that I have heard in regards to grandparents.
And that is it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if your family has its own quirks. I'm Lawrence Brown. You can follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS, and don't forget.
Okay, there you have it. There you have it. That was by Lost in the Pond, and I liked it. I got to give that a like because that was quite good. Difficult topic to try to come up with interesting comparisons on. So I admire the effort here, and also you got to have a British and American family to even try to answer this question of what is the difference, the big cultural differences between American and British families, and I think he did a very good job. These were pretty darn interesting, fam. Like, very, very subtle things that I would not ever, any other way, have thought about. Oh, is this different in another part of the world? Like the family size, bigger in America? Parties. American families love to party. I should have been able to come up with that one. Education. American families are a little more obsessed with celebrating education. I'm okay with that, actually. I'm okay with that one. Americans have more multi-generational households, which is, I still think it's only like 3%. It's still pretty low. 3 out of 100 households. And the terminology, that was interesting as well. Oh, it's pretty good. Pretty good. I definitely learned a thing or two. But for the most part, I think what this video told me is British families and American families are probably more similar than different. There was nothing that absolutely blew my mind here. But it did answer the question of what are the differences, and for that, I enjoyed it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Britain and British culture and stuff in Britain I've never learned about, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.